I personally find Vietnamese to be much more difficult, exceedingly difficult than Thai. Thai has tones, obviously, but there's a lot of context to like what you're talking about as well. So sometimes if you don't get the tone correctly, they can sometimes understand what you're saying, but you do need to pay attention and speak correctly. The best way I can explain it is sort of like with the English name, the English name Daniel. Like if I said I'm going out with my friend Daniel, you know I'm talking about a guy. If I said I'm going out with a friend and her name is Danielle, you hear the difference as an English speaker, Daniel, Danielle. Imagine an entire language, both Thai and Vietnamese, is built around that principle where depending on how you pronounce the word, it changes the meaning. So that's why tones are very important. You have to speak correctly. Now, I would always describe Thai as sort of like a text message language personally. They speak in short one sentences when conveying just regular everyday information. So it's not as verbose as English. In English, we tend to use more words to explain things. Thai, it's like, if I was on the phone with you and you asked me like where I was, I'd say, "Hom chit lao kao," like home chit already. That's it. That's all you need to say. You don't need to say, "I'm at." You don't need to say home you, home chit lao. I mean, you can say that, but that's not how Thai people speak. They speak in short, very short sentences. Now, obviously, I don't want to say like Thai is like you can explain things in great detail in Thai. It's just like for everyday information, Thai is a text message language. That's how I best describe it. What I find really challenging though about speaking Thai has nothing to do with the tones. Once you start learning this language, what's really not confusing, but what's just challenging is they use classifiers in their sentences depending on what you're talking about. So you're like, what are you talking about? So let's take the example, I have 2 pencils. Okay, so English is simple. I have 2 pencils. Let's listen to it in Thai. One more time. So what you're hearing at the end is tang, tang. That's a classifier. And so in Thai you can say I have 2 pencils, but you have to put a classifier at the end to complete the sentence. Otherwise they don't understand what you're talking about. It doesn't make any sense into English. We don't have any comparable aspect. So that's what's confusing, because the language has a bunch of different classifiers for everything. There's classifiers, like there's a classifier for a pair of something, like gloves. There's a classifier for large objects, machines. There's sometimes classifiers make no sense, like the classifier for umbrella and car is the same thing. Like it doesn't make any sense. So, and it's funny because Thais have to learn this aspect of their language as well. Like students actually have to study this. And so, people complain about the tones. I don't think the tones are that hard in Thai. You gotta pay attention to it. Like Len Lian, like home Len Facebook. Like I play Facebook. That's what they say. They don't say I use Facebook. They say I play. Home Lian, Pasa Thai is like I learn Thai. So Len Lian, you have to pronounce it a little bit differently. Similar, but again, just a little bit different. But the classifiers are what's very confusing. Now, if we take a look over here at the written language for Thai, and it's not that hard actually. It looks confusing, but it is a phonetic alphabet. So as a phonetic alphabet, super duper simple. It's like being a kid again, learning how to read in English. You gotta sit down and learn how to pronounce each and every letter. Oh, sorry. And one thing you'll notice is that they have little markers above the words. Those are just like how to pronounce. That's like an added sound. So like the flying banana thing, that's like an E sound. So like if you have J, like the letters a J sound, and it has E, it's G. Does that make sense? So again, it's just a phonetic alphabet. All you have to do is learn the letters. Then you have to learn those little markers, what they mean. And then you just sound out the words. And then, again, just learn how to speak Thai, learn the vocabulary. And then you'll start to read words and be like, oh, I know what that says, etc. So it's a little time consuming, but it's not like Chinese with a bunch of characters and you have to memorize 10,000 characters to have a command of the language and understand how to read it.
Just to make this point a little bit more clear, when you say pom mi din song song tang, what you're literally saying in English equivalent is like, I have pencil, two objects. And I'm using the word object as a classifier because in English we don't have classifiers. We say pencils with a plural, then two. And that's how we think about it. Thais, they don't have that plural aspect of their language. And so you literally need to use a classifier, because if you just say to a Thai person, pom mi din song song, it's like, that's literally saying, I have pencil, two. Two what? What are you talking about? That's why you have to tie it in with like two object. And so that's why they have different classifiers depending on what it is you're talking about, whether it's a car, airplane, pair of books, a phone, etc. There's a different classifier. And you're also thinking, why can't I just say two pencils, like song, din song? Like, no, they don't. It's the other way around with adjectives and nouns. And you also can't say pom mi din song din song. It's like, I have pencil, two pencil. That still doesn't make any sense because they think about it as like two different statements. I have pencil, two pencil. Like, they don't, it's not tied together. And so they don't think of it like that. You have to say it with the classifier at the end of the sentence in order for it to make sense. Again, just a different language, and it's interesting to learn how people think about things in a different way based on the way you speak.